Right, well, the ANZ is under fire this morning over their decision to no longer accept cash at some branches.
For more, let's bring in John Keogh, economics editor at the Australian Financial Review, the boss, as we like to call him. Good morning, Johnny. I mean, what are us wogs going to do now?
How are we going to put our money under the mattress anymore, Carl? This is interesting, isn't it? Because ANZ, some of their branches are now not going to be doing over-the-counter transactions for cash, such as, withdrawals and deposits. Instead, they're going to be switching to these what's known as smart ATMs, where you can do all the fancy business with those. But obviously, for some customers, older customers, this may present a bit of a challenge. ANZ says there'll still be people in the branch to help customers use these new smart ATMs. But look, I think this is more broadly a window into the future of banking because cash transactions are declining. We're going to see more of this across banks in the years ahead.
Welcome back. Well, a number of ANZ bank branches will no longer handle cash, instead directing customers' attention towards contactless and digital payments. Joining us to discuss today's headlines is ALP National President Wayne Swan and 4BC's Sophie Formica. Thanks so much for your time. Now, Wayne, do you think this marginalises the most vulnerable members of our community?
No question. I mean, banks are very profitable. They receive a licence. They have basic obligations to their customers, and some customers need to have cash. There are large parts of Australia now, particularly in rural Australia, where people don't have bank branches and all they have is an ATM. And I think somewhere there's going to have to be a line in the sand about the very basic services that banks should be providing, particularly for vulnerable customers.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because perhaps it's sort of jumping the gun a little bit. Maybe it's coming in too soon. I mean, Sophie, for one, I don't really carry cash. Everything's digital. It's on your phone. It's on your watch. You just tap and go these days. But it's not for everyone.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and I think you're spot on. I think that it's just moving too quickly. We're not keeping up with the changes that's being forced upon us. And it's not just the banks. It's only just this week that I've heard from listeners who've said they've tried to buy a donut, in the service station or pay for petrol, and they've been denied the opportunity to use cash to do it. And I think that it just means that we need to make sure that we keep up with the changes that's going to happen. And I've noticed that a couple of the other big banks have sort of sat on the fence and not said one way or another how they're going to tackle this now that the ANZ's come out first. I think we're going to see more of it, Sarah. We're being forced to not use cash, and we know also the value of what that data means. I don't think that we can forget that the real wealth here comes from everybody being able to go and tap and swipe, and then that data being collected so they know exactly where we're spending every dollar and what we're spending that dollar on, what that means for us moving forward as a society. I do, as Wayne said, feel really strongly for the vulnerable people in our community, and we hear from them all the time on the show. They're just not ready for it.
Yeah, what are they saying to you, Sophie? How will they cope with this change?
Yeah, they're just saying that they don't get the technology. They're not using the technology the way that many younger people are. And not only are they not using it, but to be quite frank, they don't want to use it. They also have a vulnerability around understanding what's going on in the world of, data breaches and hacking. And if we had a problem that meant that FPOS went down everywhere for an extended period of time and there's no other way to pay for anything, what does that look like?
Absolutely, and even if your phone dies, your phone battery dies, and then you can't pay for, the groceries or something. So it's kind of a bit tricky when we navigate this new online world, that's for sure. Wayne, you were going to say something?
Oh, look, I think there has to be a line drawn in the sand here somewhere. There has to be services for the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this with supermarkets as well. Our local supermarket is talking about getting rid of their cashiers, if you like. And that's going to be a problem for some people as well. But at least, unlike the banks, they don't have a licence and a privileged position.